He hadn't planned to be on that beach. The truth was, Daniel never planned anything anymore, not since life had taught him how quickly plans could disappear. He sat beneath a faded blue umbrella, the kind that leaned slightly no matter how deep you pushed the pole into the sand, watching his 6-year-old son Noah build what looked like a lopsided castle near the shoreline. Daniel's eyes followed every movement, not because he was paranoid, but because when you're a single dad, love sharpens into vigilance. The ocean glittered in front of them, loud and alive, but Daniel felt strangely calm, like the sea was breathing for him. It had been 2 years since his wife walked out, leaving behind silence, questions, and a boy who still asked at night why mommy stopped coming home. Daniel didn't come to the beach for fun, he came because Noah needed it. Because children heal faster in sunlight. That was when he noticed her. She stood a few steps away, shaking sand out of a striped towel, her hair caught in the wind like it didn't care about being neat. She was beautiful in a way that wasn't loud, but it still pulled the eye, effortless, natural, and unaware of the quiet effect she had on people around her. Daniel noticed her the way you notice a passing cloud, briefly, without intention, until she suddenly turned, caught his gaze lingering half a second too long, and said sharply, "Eyes are up here." The words landed harder than she probably meant them to. Daniel blinked, embarrassed, instinctively ready to apologize the way he always did, soft, defensive, shrinking, but instead, something in him stayed still. He looked at her face, really looked this time, and said calmly, "I was actually watching to see if you were okay. That wind almost knocked you over." His voice wasn't flirtatious or defensive. It was steady. Honest. The kind of voice that didn't ask for permission to exist. The woman hesitated, thrown off by the lack of heat, the lack of hunger in his eyes. She had expected embarrassment or denial or arrogance. Not calm. Not kindness. For a second, she didn't know what to say. Daniel gave a small nod, already turning back toward his son. "No offense taken," he added quietly. "It happens." That should have been the end of it. A forgettable moment. But she stayed there, watching him kneel beside the boy, listening as Noah explained the complicated importance of a moat, watching the way Daniel nodded like it mattered, because to Noah, it did. The woman sat down a few feet away, pretending to scroll her phone while actually listening to Daniel laugh, a low, warm sound that carried without trying. She told herself she didn't care. She told herself she'd misjudged him. Her name was Maya, and she had built armor from assumptions after too many men looked at her like a surface instead of a person. She had snapped out of habit. Defense, not cruelty. But his reply, so calm, so grounded, had cracked something she didn't expect. When Noah ran off toward the water, Daniel stood quickly, eyes alert. "He doesn't go past his knees," Daniel said to no one in particular. Maya surprised herself by answering, "That's a good rule." Their eyes met again, softer this time. "Single dad?" she asked, immediately regretting how blunt it sounded. Daniel smiled faintly. "Yeah. Full time." There was no bitterness in his tone. Just truth. Maya nodded slowly, absorbing that. They talked then, carefully at first, about small things. The weather. The ocean. How sand always finds places it shouldn't. Daniel didn't flirt. He didn't perform. He listened. And for the first time in a long while, Maya felt seen without being studied. As the sun dipped lower, casting gold across the beach, something shifted quietly between them, not attraction exactly, but recognition. Two people who had both been bruised, standing still long enough to notice. Before they parted, Daniel said, "Same spot tomorrow." Noah likes consistency. Maya smiled despite herself. "I might be around." And as she walked away, she realized something unsettled her more than any stare ever had. His calm reply hadn't just changed her impression of him. It had changed the way she saw herself. If you're enjoying this slow burn story of unexpected connection and emotional depth, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because the next chapter dives even deeper. Maya didn't expect to come back the next day, but she did. She told herself it was the ocean calling her, not him, yet her eyes searched the sand before she even unfolded her towel. Daniel was already there, Noah racing along the shore with a plastic shovel like it was a trophy. When Daniel saw her, he smiled, not wide, not eager, just warm, like seeing someone you're glad exists. That smile did something dangerous to Maya's carefully stacked defenses. They fell into conversation more easily this time, the awkward edges already worn smooth. Maya learned that Daniel used to teach high school history before switching to freelance editing so he could be home when Noah got out of school. Daniel learned that Maya had moved into the neighborhood after leaving a long-term relationship that taught her how invisible a woman could feel even while being desired. As the hours passed, the beach faded into background noise, and the space between them filled with stories, real ones. Daniel talked about nights he sat on the bathroom floor so Noah wouldn't hear him cry. Maya talked about learning to mistake attention for affection. Neither tried to fix the other. That was the magic. At one point, Noah tugged Maya's hand and asked her to help with the castle. She knelt without thinking, sand sticking to her knees, laughter bubbling out unexpectedly. Daniel watched them, something tightening in his chest, not longing, not fear, but a quiet hope he didn't dare name. When Maya caught him looking, she smiled. "Eyes are up here," she teased gently. Daniel chuckled. "I know," he said. "They always were." The words landed softly but deeply, and Maya felt her throat tighten. Later, as the sun slipped behind the horizon, Maya confessed something she hadn't planned to say. "I snap at men sometimes," she admitted. "Not because they deserve it. Because I'm tired of being reduced." Daniel nodded. "That makes sense. No judgment. No correction. Just understanding." "Your calm reply yesterday," she continued, "it reminded me that not everyone is trying to take something." Daniel looked out at the water. "I stopped taking things a long time ago," he said. "Now I just show up." Silence settled between them, comfortable and full. When it was time to leave, Maya hesitated. "I'm your neighbor," she said. "A few houses down." Daniel smiled. "I know." She raised an eyebrow. "How?" "Noah points out everyone," he said. "You're the one who waves even when he's too busy to notice." That did it. Something in Maya finally gave way, not dramatically, not all at once, but enough to let warmth in. As she walked home, she realized the beach hadn't just given her a moment, it had given her a mirror. And Daniel, with his calm and kindness, had changed her not by trying, but by being exactly who he was. If this story touched you, if you believe real change starts with quiet strength, subscribe to the channel for more powerful, emotional stories like this. The next one might just change you too. The first crack in something real usually doesn't sound loud, it sounds like laughter when you didn't expect to laugh. That was how it began for Maya and Daniel after the beach days turned into quiet evenings. It started with a wave across the fence, then coffee mugs exchanged with awkward smiles, then one evening when Daniel's power went out and Maya noticed his porch light dark. She knocked without thinking, holding a small flashlight and an excuse she didn't need. Noah answered the door first, eyes lighting up like he'd discovered a secret. "It's the beach lady," he announced proudly. Maya laughed, something warm spreading through her chest, and Daniel stood behind him, sheepish but grateful. They sat that night in candlelight, shadows dancing on the walls, talking about things that mattered and things that didn't. Daniel spoke about the fear of failing his son, the quiet panic of being both parents at once. Maya admitted how she'd built her confidence from sharp edges, how being admired had started to feel like being hunted. There was no performance between them, just two people letting the truth breathe. When Noah fell asleep on the couch, head against Maya's arm, she froze at first, afraid of the weight of it, then relaxed, realizing how natural it felt. Daniel watched them, heart full and terrified all at once. Later, when Maya stood to leave, she paused at the door. "I don't want to be a temporary person in a child's life," she said carefully. Daniel nodded, respecting the boundary. "Neither do I," he replied. That answer stayed with her all night. Not romantic. Responsible. Real. Over the next weeks, Maya didn't rush closer, she moved slower. She showed up consistently. She waved. She listened. She learned Noah's favorite cereal and Daniel's habit of pretending he wasn't exhausted. And Daniel, for the first time since his marriage ended, felt safe enough to imagine a future that wasn't just survival. Still, fear lingered. One night, after Noah went to bed, Daniel admitted it. "I don't know how to do this," he said quietly. "Let someone in again." Maya didn't reach for his hand. She didn't promise anything. She just said, "Then don't let me in. Walk with me instead." That was the moment Daniel realized something had already changed, not just in her, but in him. If you're feeling this slow, emotional build, this is where real stories begin. Subscribe now so you don't miss what happens next. The test never comes when you're ready, it comes disguised as a bad day. For Maya, it arrived in the form of an unexpected message from her past. Her ex had seen her laughing with Daniel and Noah outside the house and decided to remind her who she used to be to him. The message was sharp, dismissive, and cruel enough to reopen scars she thought had healed. She didn't tell Daniel right away. Instead, she grew quieter, guarded, snapping without meaning to. Daniel noticed. Of course he did. One evening, as they stood by the fence, he said gently, "You don't have to explain, but you don't have to disappear either." The words broke something open. Maya confessed everything, the relationship that taught her to weaponize confidence, the fear that she only knew how to exist in defense mode. She expected Daniel to reassure her, to say the right thing. Instead, he told her the truth. "I'm scared too," he said. "But I don't want Noah growing up thinking love means walking on eggshells." The honesty stung, but it was clean. Real. That night, Maya cried alone, not because Daniel hurt her, but because he respected her enough to be honest. The next morning, she knocked on his door, eyes tired but steady. "I don't want to be sharp anymore," she said. "I want to be brave." Daniel didn't rush her. He didn't pull her close. He simply nodded and said, "Then stay." Weeks later, Maya found herself sitting in the front row of Noah's school event, cheering louder than anyone. Daniel watched her clap, tears in his eyes, realizing the calm reply he'd given her on the beach had started a chain reaction neither of them could have predicted. Love hadn't arrived like fireworks, it arrived like trust, built quietly, brick by brick. And Maya finally understood something she'd never learned before: safety wasn't boring. It was transformative. If this chapter moved you, the next part will go even deeper. Subscribe to the channel and stay with this story, because the most powerful moments are still ahead.